podcast, everybody. Wherever you are, whatever you are doing, thank you so much for your company. I am truly honored today to have somebody who is incredibly outstanding in the field of nutritional medicine. He is otherwise known as the Medicinal Chef. He's been in the industry for over 25 years. He has written numerous books. I want to get onto that subject as we go on. I can only be talking about one person, of course. I'm talking about Mr. Dale Pinnock himself. Come on, applause, please. Dale, listen, welcome, and thank you very much for joining me on the podcast. Really appreciate that.
Thanks for having me.
You're known as the Medicinal Chef.
Yes.
And I just want to know a little bit about your background into this subject. If you see somebody into health and fitness or they study it or whatever the case is, the number one question is, how ill were you?
Yep.
Or what was wrong with you? Because not many people, before the Instagram day, where everybody's like a nutritional Instagram expert, but before that, you normally left school, you wanted to be something, but very few people say, oh, I want to study IBS. I don't think that. So it normally comes from a place of illness. So what was your story?
For me, it was acne. From the age of about 10 or 11, it was actually the summer where I left primary school to go up to secondary school. That time in your life when you're just starting to compare yourself in relation to your peers, I started breaking out. I looked like I'd been shot in the face with a blunderbuss. It was awful. And I went to so many different practitioners, dermatologists, doctors, specialists, that kind of stuff. Tried every manner of lotion and potion, topical antibiotics, oral antibiotics, all of that kind of stuff. Nothing made a particularly big difference. Then got to about 15 years old and I sat around at my friend's house one night feeling sorry for myself. And his mum lent me this book. And it was called Fit for Life by Harvey. Do you ever remember that?
Oh my God, do I remember it? Obviously, I don't want to interrupt you every 2 minutes, but Fit for Life is, for those that don't know, those that are listening in that have never heard of this book, it's an American book. It's Harvey and Marilyn Diamond. They ended up writing 3 books. Second one, obviously Fit for Life 2, but the third one, Tonics for Life, which mainly his wife wrote. It's all about natural hygiene. And it was genuinely the book, I would say, Dale, above any other. And it's interesting because we haven't had this discussion at all. So it's interesting because that book, I would say, drastically changed my life. That was the one of all of the books that I read it and everything changed.
Well, she lent me this book when I was 15 and I read this thing, obviously as a 15-year-old boy. She said to me, look, unless you change what's going on the inside, nothing will change on the outside. And obviously being a 15-year-old lad, I was like, yeah, whatever. In the 90s, in the middle of the rave scene, do you know what I mean? I wasn't thinking about food at that time. To be fair, I was so desperate. If someone would have told me to go out in the garden at midnight wrapped in tinfoil and it would help, I would have done it. So I read this thing cover to cover in a weekend, and then that was it. That was that light bulb moment. I realised that we can actively engage in our own healthcare. We don't just it doesn't just have to be a passive process. There's steps that we can take to actually improve our health and start to actually take some degree of control.
It's so funny that I didn't actually realise even until the beginning of this conversation how much weirdly we have in common, in sense you had severe acne. I was covered from head to foot in a skin disease called psoriasis and also had eczema. And like you said, I would have done anything. You told me to pour bleach on me and it would have gone, I would have done it.
It's very true.
You've done a book as well. In 2018, you got the Clear Skin Cookbook as well.
Yeah.
Skin was very close to your heart, very first thing. So what changes did you fundamentally make? What was the first things that you changed for your skin? Or after reading the book, did you just go, look, I'm cleaning from the inside out and it's just a case of just cleaning?
It was more that. I mean, obviously at the time I've been cooking since I was 4 years old, so I've always been very adventurous and experimental.
Cooking since you were 4?
No word of a lie. As soon as me and my sister were old enough to know what a saucepan was, my mum would have us in the kitchen helping her to prepare the family meals.
Your mum's flanneling you there. She's having a laugh. I think my first memory is at 7, I think, but that's because I smoked too much marijuana in my teens, so maybe that's why I can't remember anything.
Well, no, I remember it. Though. I always,
No, I'm not dissing it. So obviously you're in the kitchen at 4, so you had a massive interest, like from very early on.
In eating, yeah. I was always an enthusiastic eater, but most of it was crap, to be honest. I mean, it's like, how many ways can I make pizza exciting? What kind of dirty burger could I create?
No, I'm sorry, but when you say you're an enthusiastic eater, I think most of the UK, most of Western society, that is the problem, is that we're all enthusiastic eaters. It's just that like you said, I mean, you look at the size that I used to be, I was a very enthusiastic eater. So you read the book, and then what was the big changing?
I went over to a plant-based diet. I went 100% plant-based overnight with that. And I was actually vegan for over 20 years. I'm not now, but I was for over 20 years.
So hang on, you were vegan for 20... I'm going to keep interrupting. Sorry, because these are great points to just bring up for our listeners. No, but the thing is that you're vegan for over 20 years. I was vegan for 7 years. And I think that's part of it. Is when you first get into this, you're so enthralled by it, you almost become scared of everything else. And of course, you go so far one way that you don't believe that you can have a healthy balance of anything. And I suppose we all have to go through that to some extent. But 20 years as a vegan, let me ask you a question: what broke you? After 20 years, what was the thing? What did you eat?
It wasn't a food that did it. It was actually decline in health. I mean, I really, really thrived on it for a very, very long time. Like through all of my 20s, I felt fantastic. Early 30s, I was like, okay. When I got to about 35, 36, things started to change. All of a sudden, I started to balloon, and I was eating a whole food vegan diet. After having studied 2 degrees and a master's in the subject, it was really good food. I knew what I was doing, but I just started ballooning, and then I just started getting all sorts of weird symptoms. Got some blood work done. My inflammatory markers were through the roof. My lipid panel was absolutely shot to pieces. My omega-3 to omega-6 ratios were completely out of kilter. Everything was starting to lead towards some quite serious degenerative patterns. So around about that time as well, I started for the first time after 20 odd years getting the most uncontrollable cravings for meat. It just came out of nowhere after 20 years. Usually it's after 20 minutes. Do you know what I mean? People are like, yeah, I'm vegan. Then 3 days later, they smell a bacon sandwich and lose their marbles. But this was 20 years. And you know what I had? I had a steak.
Do you know what? It's very unusual. Do you know the number one thing that people break? And you've mentioned it just a minute ago. It's a bacon sandwich. They will break it with a bacon sandwich. They said that's what did it. But like you said, it's normally the people that have been, vegetarian or vegan for a weekend or whatever the case is. And do you know what? You brought up a really important point, and I hope that some that are listening really heed this, is that you didn't blindly, and this is, I think, the challenge we have with a lot of people when it comes to health and nutrition right now, is that they blindly, no matter what they've, and we all fall for what we've read or anything else. And I always say to people, look, even reading my stuff or anything else, always be subjective, always be skeptical, always listen intuitively to your own body. What agrees with one person might not agree with the other person, and so on and so forth. And what you did intelligently after 20 years was go, hang on a minute, there's something internal that is making me crave this. So listen, I believe that we're like dinosaurs. It's not a case of humans are herbivores or humans are carnivores. I believe that some humans are definitely carnivores and some humans are definitely herbivores.
I think we're opportunities. If you look at our physiology now, we've adapted. It's adaptation over our development as a species, because we've had periods in early human development where plants were more plentiful and those were the easy food option for us. Then we've had periods through human development where plant foods were less abundant, and we've evolved to be able to eat animal foods as well. I mean,
can I just reiterate, Dave, as well, just to make sure for the listeners as well, is that when you said because there are so many unhealthy vegans, right? So and there are healthy vegans too, and that is the challenge, and same with vegetarianism. Yeah. Is that there's, and same with meatism, whatever although you don't hear something called meatism. It's not a meatism. Why isn't there a meatism? But anyway, everything else used to be an ism. That's a good point. Let's start meatism.
That website got taken down.
Yeah, it might have done. Yeah. So, but you were when you say healthy vegan, so what would your diet consist of for 20 years?
Whole food, plant-based.
Fine.
So it would be built around fruit, vegetables, whole grains, nuts, seeds, legumes. There was a little bit of olive oil to cook with. There was, that was it. It was the typical whole food plant-based diet.
Because there's a lot of vegans that I know, vegetarian. Let's just use the word vegetarians to be more kind of, I suppose, level. But vegetarian, I know a lot of vegetarians that haven't seen a vegetable for 10 years. I don't know why they call themselves. Vegetarians. They should call themselves, and I coin the phrase
non-meatitarian.
Well, no, not even. I call them starcharians. It's starcharianism. It's like they have, rice, they have pasta, they have chips.
That's very John McDougall, isn't it?
They're starcharians, is what they are. But you as a healthy vegan, but even being a healthy vegan, and this is the point, is that for your body, for whatever reason, after a period of time, just went, Dale, what are you doing, dude? I want some meat, right? That's
but also, different stages of life. our bodies obviously change in terms of hormonal profiles, and certain metabolic functions start to change. And, you know, I was 35, 36. I'm now 42. Your body changes, and sometimes you have to shift with it. I mean, now there's, you know, for guys our age, there needs to be more focus on keeping testosterone high, on looking after the health of the cardiovascular system and the prostate and all those kind of things. And you need to tailor your diet accordingly if you want to live a long and healthy life. And I think I was just quite acutely aware of what I was doing at that particular point in time wasn't supporting my health at that stage in my life. It may well be that in another 20 years, all of a sudden, I just crave broccoli all the time. I don't know.
No, you're right. You might revert back, as Dr. Norman Walker did, or someone like that. And that is the point. Is that, and it's the same with exercise as well. I mean, I was talking to somebody the other day about this, and I want to do a podcast about this with the fitness expert. I'm not a fitness expert in any way, shape, or form. In fact, it'd be argued I'm not an expert in anything. But when it comes to fitness, is that I'm 50 now. I've just turned 50, and there's no question that there is a massive difference between what you can do in your 20s. So take someone like Joe Wicks, right, who's taken the world by storm, the world, in fact, not just the UK, he's taken the world by storm. It's very Bill Phillips based from the 70s, but of course, a lot of Instagrammers would never have heard of Bill Phillips and so on. And so things are naturally recycled. And I happen to like what Joe does, and he appeals to a lot of people, and he's very fit and good looking. I mean, the guy looks like Poldark, right? So you can see the appeal of the man, clearly. But I would argue sometimes as well, like HIIT training, you know, high intensity training, high intensity interval training, whatever the case is that, you know, I'm not being funny, but my knees aren't the same as they were at 50 as they were in their 20s.
100%.
If I start doing tons of HIIT now, and I think this is where a lot of people don't, and I was guilty of it as well in my 20s, 30s, because of course you don't know until you start getting a bit older, and you know, you just don't know these things. And so the point, and that's why with age does become a degree of, I suppose, wisdom in some way, in the sense that, oh my God, I thought I would always be able to do HIIT training, always be able to run a marathon in under 4 hours, always be able to, you know, and you go, well, actually those things, unless you consistently train at those things, but your knees are going to buckle at some point. And you've pointed out the same with nutrition, and I've not heard that from anybody before. So this to me is very refreshing, really new is that you didn't, and I think a lot of people listening to this, hopefully they'll gain something from this. It's almost given them permission, Dale, for me. To say, well, actually, just because I'm blindly said that I am something, people get caught up with our identities. I am a vegan. I am a vegetarian. I am a something. It's those, well, you can adapt. You can change. I mean, I'm not being funny. Otherwise, you'll go around for the rest of your life going, you know, I used to be a nappy wearer. I'm not anymore. That'd be weird, right? You know, you go through different periods of your life doing different things that support you at the time. And I'm telling you now, wearing a nappy now wouldn't support. so, but it's that intuitive thing. So really interesting. So a lot of your books, I'm imagining in the early days, I don't know, Dale, am I right in thinking a lot of them were very plant-based?
No, I mean, I didn't have my first book published until I was in my 30s. So it was at the time when I was starting to transition. Yeah. Well, you know what? I'm obviously, you look at what's going on now with, like, you know, everyone wants to be an influencer. Everyone wants to kind of get on this platform, being an expert in this industry. I feel you have to kind of earn your stripes. I mean, I spent 9 years of my life at university. So I did my first undergrad degree in human nutrition. I did a second undergrad degree in herbal medicine. Not that I wanted to be a herbalist, but I wanted to understand plant biochemistry more in depth. And then I did a master's degree in nutritional medicine at Surrey. So I spent a long time actually studying, because at the end of the day, this is people's health we're talking about. This isn't like, you know, giving people 20 things to do with broccoli. This is like dealing with people's health, and that is a massive responsibility that I took incredibly seriously. So who the hell am I to, when I was 20 years old, I mean, Instagram didn't exist when I was 20 years old, but to be there preaching to people. I was a student, and I'm still a student now. I mean, that's one of the things that I really pride myself on is still having a hunger for this information, and still being completely open to the fact of how much I don't know, how much none of us really know, and how much the subject is in its infancy. And how exciting the recent developments in nutritional research are, you know, becoming.
And this is the difference, Dave. Like you said, you've earned your stripes, you know, and I think that, and I think in order to do that, sometimes it's time, sometimes it's study, sometimes it's you're working with people, sometimes whatever it is. It isn't, hey, I've just opened up an Instagram account and I look good. well, that's really not enough. Although it is, unfortunately, in today's world.
It is in a way. I mean, for a little while, there was a little time when the Instagrammers had their time in the sun, but then people started demanding more of an evidence base. But also, will those same people have longevity? There's a reason I've had a career for as long as I have. It's because you look at my Instagram, it's pictures of food and it's value. Every post is value, 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 value all the time. It's not like, look at me, I'm fantastic, buy this, I'm promoting that. It's just like, here is 3 things you didn't know about broccoli. This is something that I ate the other day. Did you know this food contains this, 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 or this? I'm about giving value. I'm about giving education. It's not about trying to be on some kind of pedestal. Or
talking of which, I mean, none of us are on pedestal. We're really not. I mean, I've always been the same as well. It's just we're always learning. We're always in the school of life, always in the school of nutrition. That's how we are. I actually believe, though, that your vocation, essentially, I think, is in its infancy.
Yeah.
I actually believe that, Dale. I mean, you've been around for a long time. You've been doing this for a long time. But actually, I think there's a tipping point about to happen. I've loved your book.
Thank you.
Lovely to have you on the podcast, because for anybody who's been under a rock and haven't heard of you at the moment, or whatever the case is, I hope this gets shared by as many people as they can, because there's a lot of, healthy cookbooks out there, but yours are the best in the field. There's not even a question. The care, the attention to detail, the taste, these aren't thrown together. These books are genuinely fantastic. The nutrition's been thought through. And like you said, you have genuine knowledge, about health and nutrition.
It's heart and soul as well.
It is heart and soul. And anybody who wants to learn more about the course, I know you don't like selling. I don't mind selling for you. I don't give a monkey's, because actually I think because I think you add incredible value. And I think everybody ultimately is selling something, whether it's information or something else. And that's just how it is. Yeah. That's the way it is. Your course that you've got, I just want to learn a little bit about it.
The course is 100% online. It's a fully accredited by 2 bodies at the minute, and we're in discussions with a 3rd body, which is BANT, British Association of Nutrition and Lifestyle Medicine, to get their final accreditation as well. It's a diploma in culinary medicine. Really, it's all about taking the science and the theory of using food as medicine, how food influences our health, but then converting that into something practical that people can do with, i.e., creating recipes, dishes, meal plans around specific health concerns. It's basically teaching people to do what I do. We cover all of the key areas that would be safe for people to work in. So things like metabolic diseases, cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, mental health, all of those different areas, how nutrition fits in the picture, and then how to take that science, and it's fully evidence-based because that's how we've managed to get the accreditation, and then turn that into something practical.
How long is the course? How can people go about it? All that kind of stuff.
It's 100% online. There's no time limit, so people could sign up and they could take 8 months to do it. They could take 8 years to do it. There's no pressure whatsoever. Sure. You just work through it, you submit the work, and then the next part is unlocked. There's videos, there's recorded PowerPoint presentations, there's written material, there's a variety of things for all different learner types. I mean, there's hundreds of students on board already. We've got doctors,
wow.
We've got high school students, we've got retired office workers. There's such a broad demographic of people, and not one of them.
This is an important point. Sorry, Dad, I want to come on to doctors actually just for a minute as well, because a lot of people out from the outside look at people in our industry and they automatically, incredibly falsely, for whatever reason, believe that we are anti-doctor or anti-pharmaceutical. And I'm presuming you're in my school of thought that nothing could be further from the truth.
Absolutely,
on that for you,
100%.
I guess.
I mean, when I was doing my masters, most of the other students on that course were GPs. I work with hundreds of doctors and GPs in different ways. I've got doctors that will actually recommend my books to patients and stuff. So there's a great relationship. 10, 15 years ago, it was maybe a little rockier. But the thing is, I think everything's got its place. When it comes to acute issues and acute situations, that's where modern medicine is miracle work. If I walk out of my office now and get hit by a bus, the last thing I want to see is broccoli. Right? I want morphine and I want it now. But if when it comes to the actual chronic degenerative conditions that are plaguing our health service, pharmaceuticals aren't winning the war. That's why there's been so much focus and investment by the NHS on social prescribing. We're starting to realise that personal responsibility and self-care is what is the most effective there. So there's almost like 2 distinctly different camps when it comes to the healthcare picture. Acute medicine, there's really no place for nutrition in it, apart from, if a patient's on a ward and needs like an IV feed or something, but that's very speciality dietetic work. But then with the degenerative stuff, the thing that's really, really killing all the people that we know and we love, that's where nutrition and lifestyle and self-care is most relevant.
Dale, are you telling me if you're on a bridge and you get run over by a bus and one of your legs falls off, you're not going to have a broccoli juice to make yourself better?
Sorry to break that to you, mate.
But this is the madness. You know, I get people sometimes saying stuff like that. Like they might have a back spasm. They go, you know, what juice can you recommend? No, I recommend diazepam is what I recommend. I don't recommend you know what I mean? It's like, are you crazy? Yeah. This is short-term and long-term medical intervention is absolutely necessary. But I think you and I are on the same page in the sense that the pill for every ill and an ill for every pill, big pharma, and I know that term's overused. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm talking about parts of big pharma that really are a racket. There's no question. Yeah. I mean, there's no question. But let's not confuse doctors with big pharma. I mean, they're two completely, you know, doctors are sold to by me.
I'll tell you a little story there. I'm not going to mention any names or company names because, you know, they'll just rinse us. But a friend of mine, like an old housemate, I used to rent a room off her. She used to be European sales director for one of the big pharma companies. She's now a mobile hairdresser. She took a £400,000 a year pay cut so she can sleep at night and not feel guilty about what she's doing, because she was being told like there would be like a trial of, you know, several 100,000 people, and within that there'd be like 25% of the participants died or had some kind of life-altering symptom from it. They'd be like, listen, if a doctor asks you about this, you've got to say this, you've got to say that, you've got to lead them around, just get the sale, just get the sale. And just get the sale. Although I do believe that the US probably has more of an issue with that than we do now. I think we've got some really, really fantastic people in our health service now that are really focusing on the self-care aspect, really, really being enthusiastic promoters and being outspoken about. And
it's good that they are being outspoken, because the challenge is they get bombarded with the pharmaceutical industry as well, and that is where the challenge often comes in. But like you said, I wouldn't be alive today without the pharmaceutical industry. So I'm not against, you know, without my I was severely asthmatic. Without my asthma pump, I'd be dead. So, you know, whenever anybody in this field gets, but I think the reason why I wanted you on the podcast as well, Dale, is that, look, there are quacks in both ends of the scale. So you could look at the alternative medicine field, which I suppose would be deemed in, I suppose, that there's real quacks. Oh yeah. In this, I mean, real proper first class Looney Tunes in this field, right? Proper. And the problem is you get grouped with them, and that's the challenge. Yeah. But equally in the doctor pharmaceutical industry, you've got quacks down that end. But the ones that are, what's nice, there's quite a nice majority now that are coming in the middle of everywhere and going, actually, this works there, that doesn't work there, but let's look at this objectively. And they're starting to, and a lot of doctors now are starting to heed by their own oath. The number one thing was first, do no harm. Yeah.
But also I think so many are frustrated now as well. Like they're seeing in their practices day in, day out, patients coming in with these degenerative conditions and they're just not getting any better. They're taking their statins, they're taking their blood pressure medications, they're taking their diuretics, all the rest of it. They're just not improving. They can see that there's something missing. Something has been missing. I mean, a lot of people listening that are UK based will have started to see some of the changes already. Many of your local doctor's surgeries, for example, would have all come under the same name, and they're bundled together in what's called a primary care network now. Sure. And within the primary care network, there's now workers called link workers that are actually like liaison officers between the doctors, the patients, and what's available self-care wise in the local area. They can send patients to cooking classes, they can send them to exercise classes, painting classes, whatever. There's so much more focus now with social prescribing on things we can do for ourselves.
I was going to say, talking of which, things we can do with ourselves. So practicality towards the end of the podcast, things we can do for ourselves. What do you say to those that often say, oh, well, it's different for me because, and there's a whole bunch of those, obviously, that will always have that. It's different for me because, and they'll finish the sentence however they want to finish it. But the ones that think that they have a good argument, which are, well, actually, I would eat healthily, but it just costs too much. What would you say about that, Dale?
It's bollocks. Frankly,
do you know what?
It's complete nonsense.
Well, there's a new TV show that's coming up.
The TV show,
Eat Shop Save. So presumably anybody who is thinking that actually you can't eat healthily on a low budget. So from the 1st of August, 2019, so they can tune in, right? And they can say, because otherwise you'll be here for another hour trying to explain to people how, because it's so easy. Do you know, I get this as well, Dale, all the time when people go, oh, it's easy for you. It's always easy for you, isn't it? Right? They don't know your history, right? They don't know that I was brought up on a council estate in Peckham. They don't know that I was a one-parent family. They don't know, there's a billion things they don't know about me, right? They make absolute assumptions that, you know, I was born in some affluent area, that I was done this, didn't the other, and so you wouldn't know what it's like to live on the breadline and all this kind of stuff. And so therefore, all we can afford are beans on toast. And it's really funny when you go, how much is a banana? I'm curious.
I'll tell you a little story, actually. I mean, a few years ago, I did this piece for ITV News, and we were working with these two girls that were living in the YMCA in Croydon. And between the two of them, their combined weekly budget for food was £15.
Wow.
And at the time, they were running out of money. They were just shopping at like the frozen food supermarkets, and they were eating really, really badly. They were running out of food, running out of money. They could feel it affecting their health. They really realised that things had to change, and they reached out and said, look, we want to figure out what to do, but then help other people that are in our situation to find different options. So the first thing we did was we went around Croydon Market. I said to them, what bits do you usually get from the market? They were like, we've never been there. So it's like, okay, this thing is on the doorstep. We went to Croydon Market and we ended up, I showed them how to make this spinach and sweet potato curry. We made a great big vat of it. It worked out 60 pence per portion. Wow. And we made a great big vat of it. They froze portions of it in individual containers, and they started to stockpile their own healthy food. They spent, I think it was something like, a £5 in total on this market, and they had carrier bags full of fresh ingredients, and we cooked it up. We actually froze things. They started to have money in their pocket for the first time. They were able to actually live a little.
I think that's brilliant, and also your freezer can be your best friend, and what your book shows, and also the TV show as well. Talking to books, somebody starting out for the first time, somebody's listening in right now, down. They go, do you know what? All I eat is crap, and I can't cook. Oh, well, first of all, two questions really. First of all, do you think that anybody can cook healthily? Do you think you need to be an expert in this field? I mean, you were cooking from the age of 4. I mean, you were obviously extra special, but for most people,
I've been called that many times.
Well, I'm sure you have. But for most people listening, Dale, do you think anybody can get to grips with healthy eating?
Yeah, and it's not about creating like a cordon bleu masterpiece. What I will say to people is, look, if there's something that you already cook, or that you're happy to start with, that's your starting point. Just try and pimp it up a little bit. Find ways that you can swap ingredients out or tweak the cooking methods. Just start gradually. Just start slowly. You don't have to be, there is no such thing as perfection here. You don't have to have it all figured out.
Somebody's getting one of your books for the first time. They're new to you, Dale. I can't imagine people will be. Imagine that. They don't even know who you are. Imagine such a thing. But imagine somebody's new to your world of the Medicinal Chef. And what book would you... I mean, it's hard. I mean, you've written 14 of the things, but...
Yeah. Got to be like trying to choose your favourite child, wouldn't it? You know what? I would say The Power of 3.
The Power of 3. Okay, I like that.
That's my favourite. That's one that I'm probably the most proud of in terms of the science in there, and the recipes are beautiful as well.
Do you want to give us any? What are the 3? I mean, we haven't got a great deal of time left now, but
wow, you asked me this at the end. This is like serious rabbit hole business. But I can give you a quick version. In this industry, we always get asked, like, okay, with all of this contradictory information, what is the ideal diet? What should we be doing? Should we be paleo or raw or vegan or yada yada? And the truth is, anyone that's got any kind of scruples at all in this area should say, we haven't got a clue. We really haven't got a clue what's the ideal diet. But what we do know is the ways in which our modern diet is killing us. So if we flip that on its head and build a program that's built around doing the opposite, like a diet that has an opposite impact on our physiology than those negative consequences of our modern way of eating, then we're probably hedging our bets. And I think that can be boiled down to 3 main areas: blood sugar balance, fatty acid balance, and nutrient density. Okay, that's if you take a step back from a lot of the aspects of our modern way of eating and the damaging effects that those are having on many aspects of our metabolic health, it's like we're eating far too much fast release sugars. We're eating the wrong kinds of fats. Our food hasn't got any nutritional density whatsoever. That's really what it boils down to. So this way of eating literally flips that whole thing on its head.
Sure. And I suppose the biggest challenge that people have is more of a subject that I tend to deal with more than anything else, but is of course addiction, is that it's a bit like telling a smoker, that cigarettes are bad for them. I mean, they know that. And unfortunately, obviously everybody who suffers overweight or anything else already knows. They don't do what they know, not because they're stupid. I always say just because somebody's thick physically doesn't mean that they're thick mentally. But there is still something that even those that are even highly addictive, and like you said, to make tiny little changes going along. But also if somebody ate the power of 3, the way the power of 3 for like 10 days or something, then there is a reset that happens when you put your mind and body in for a service. Let's put it that way, right? Yeah. And then after a period of time, you then crave the good stuff and you don't know why. And sometimes that does seem to switch some of the addiction as well. Yeah,
well, I mean, certainly with lots of physical addictions, I think there's all sorts of mindset shifts that happen. Once you start feeling good, there's got to be something wrong in the wiring for you to want to stop feeling good.
Yeah. I get it, but the challenge is, like I stopped smoking once for 8 months and I felt fantastic, but that didn't stop me having a joint at a party. And the next thing you know, I'm back on 40, 60 cigarettes a day. Yeah. The problem with addiction, it transcends logic and intelligence. Oh, yes. And the problem is when we're feeling good, we feel that nothing can actually do us harm or we can't get addicted again. And that's for another point. Yeah. I'm getting you back on, Dale. There's no question. I'm telling you now, because there's not enough time. You would honestly, you know so much about this subject. You're so fascinated. You're so in tune with a great deal of how I think about this subject and the flexibility of it and the openness of it. This non-dogmatic, this is the way to do it. And I love that. I mean, I truly love it. And it's so refreshing in this industry to see that. Doing the other document, I'm doing Super Juice Me 2, just so you know, but I do, without question, want you as a contributor within that movie. Oh, that'd be great. If you're willing to be. Yeah, I'd love to be. Because I just think we're filming that next year at some point, and it's slightly different to the first one, obviously, as you can imagine. Well, the first one's called Super Juice Me 1, so it's different straight away. Listen, I could chew the fat with you for so long, but I know that, most people listen to podcasts, they're making dinner for the kids or they're driving or whatever. They're probably just finishing their journey now. They're probably already just wrapping up with what they're cooking. Hopefully, they're cooking something pretty good, or hopefully, now what they've done is they've just gone, do you know what? I was in the middle of cooking this, but I'll tell you what I'm cooking tomorrow. I've already downloaded 3 of the books. I've already got The Power of 3. I've already got Eat Your Way to Better Health. I've already got Eat Your Way to Digestion, Eat Your Way to Better Health. Heart Disease, Eat Your Way to Better Health. Diabetes, Eat Your Way to Better Health. I think the subheading Eat Your Way to Better Health is pretty much on most of the books, I would say, Dale.
It is,
yeah. Listen, although I'm saying 1st of August, by the time this podcast goes out, your show would have already been aired, right? So the thing is that hopefully people would have already watched that show. It's on ITV. Those listening around the world, hopefully they can tap in somewhere and watch it on the ITV hub, somewhere along the lines. But Dale's course, I'm going to get my teeth into it. If you want to learn more about genuine nutrition, not Instagram nutrition,
culinarymedicinecollege.com, that one.
And also on your Instagram, they can find links, presumably, right? They go on your Instagram, which is
The Medicinal Chef.
The Medicinal Chef on Instagram. I was going to give you a Twitter handle, but you know what? Twitter's just an angry place, isn't it?
I'm not on it. I deleted my account for that reason.
Oh, good. It's just angry.
You get like a shoal of fish or a gaggle of geese. You get a Twitter of arseholes. It's
hang on, you needed it to beginning with T. Dale, I'm not letting that slide. You get a gaggle of geese, I get, right? But you need something.
Yeah. You need a shoal of fish.
You need a
pod of seals.
No, but you could have said. But I know you were more polite than I. You could have said, a Twitter of twats is what you could have said. But I know that you're more polite than I am.
I probably would have been able to get it out. Yeah.
But that's I'm still on Twitter, and every now and then I put something positive out. Freaks them out. They don't know what to do with it.
Existential crisis.
You start sending love on Twitter, they start freaking out.
Start smiling at someone on the underground.
It really is for you. Start talking to somebody on the ground. You start freaking out. So much more we could talk about. It's been a genuine honour, and in a way it sounds really weird, but I speak on behalf of so many people that you've helped already, and you've helped thousands and thousands throughout the world, that actually there was a reason why you ended up getting bad acne. You thought it was a negative, but actually it's been a positive for you, obviously, oddly,
it has.
And it ended up being a positive for so many people. Listen, I can't thank you enough. Ladies and gentlemen, it is the one, the only, it is the Medicinal Chef. It's Dale. Thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you.